This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find back episodes at ovpodcast.com, find the blog at obsessiveviewer.com, and you can like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. Also, the episode sponsor for this week is once again Horror Movie Yearbook from the Midwest Podcast Network. They just recently released an episode that was recorded at Motor City Nightmares horror convention up in, I believe, Detroit, I would assume. So check that out at HM Yearbook on Twitter and at horrormovieyearbook.com. And thank you, Horror Movie Yearbook, for sponsoring us this week on The Obsessive Viewer. Once again, Horror Movie Yearbook is a podcast where they talk about horror movies and kind of package them together by the release year, and they contextualize their reviews and their discussions and tailor the discussions around the current events of the time of the year of release and of and the pop culture of the time. So it's a lot of fun. Check it out at horrormovieyearbook.com. And today on the podcast, Tiny, we've got a little bit of news to go over. News. And then we're also going to be, what are we going to be reviewing?
A Vin Diesel double feature.
Oh my god, it is a Vin Diesel double feature.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and The Fate of the Furious.
Wow. I'm stupid. I didn't even make that connection.
Both movies highly influenced by family values.
Seriously.
Well. I mean,
like, not even a joke. It's
one ridiculously so, and the other just semi-ridiculously so.
Right.
Yeah.
both of these Vin Diesel movies feature family dynamics prominently in it. One is super ridiculous, the other has a talking raccoon.
Exactly. One of them beats the family thing to death, and the other one talks about family while other things get beat to death.
Exactly. So we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and The Fate of the Furious. I don't think we're going to go into a spoiler discussion for Fate of the Furious, but since Guardians is kind of a big deal, we will have a separate spoiler section. I'll probably, this time around, I'll put that kind of toward the end of the episode, or I'll put that probably after the little credits in the episode. That way, if you want to hear two spoiler-free reviews of Guardians and Fate of the Furious, you won't have to skip around and everything. So first off, Tiny, before I get to news, how are you doing? Is everything
I am
good?
very well.
Good. You were late because you were talking to a neighbor.
Yes, I'm super domesticated now.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Whereas I went to a wedding last weekend, and when I came back after being gone for like 2 whole days, my cat did not care any less. Could not have cared any less. So that's where I'm at in my life. So anyway, before we get started into our first of the 2 reviews, we have a little bit of news to go over. Last week, Tiny, we did a bonus episode about the Dark Tower trailer. And so we spent like over an hour talking about the Dark Tower and the Dark Tower trailer and the fan reception to it and everything. And that was just something we spent a lot of time on, so we won't talk that much about the trailer now. But I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit of the feedback that I've heard, kind of out in the internet and everything. Have you heard much feedback about the trailer from people?
No.
Okay.
I haven't looked for it because I just don't. It's going to be so frustrating.
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
So I am a glutton for punishment. And so I looked at the things. But the first thing I want to point out is that this trailer came out like a week ago tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And at the time of this recording, it's been out for 6 days, and it's up to 10 million views, which I am super excited about.
Yeah.
I think that seems pretty promising. And the second thing I want to bring up is that I've kind of had this thing where I've been asking the people that I know who I know have no idea what the Dark Tower is, or don't really have that Dark Tower knowledge, or the interest in it that, you know, a Stephen King fan or Dark Tower fan does. And I've been asking their opinions about it. I listened to our friends over at The Nerds You're Looking For. They touched on it in the news segment of their recent episode. And the thing that I keep finding that's really interesting, and we touched on it a little bit in the bonus episode, is that I just find it interesting that people are confused or the Nerds You're Looking For, they had really interesting thoughts on it because they were pretty underwhelmed by it. They thought that the action looked cheesy, and kind of the thing that stood out to them was that it didn't seem like their idea of what the Dark Tower is based on their passing familiarity. I assume, and I've seen this talked about across the internet and stuff, is that people kind of see like the gunslinger and think it's the gunslinger is like a pretty, I wouldn't say straightforward, but it's very steeped in like, you know, fantasy and Western. They don't really understand that, you know, this is a multi-universe spanning thing and multiverse thing. And has as much tied to, our world as it does to Midworld, and it's a whole thing. So it's interesting to see the commentary arise about it, around that kind of not misunderstanding, but that conflict of ideas about what the Dark Tower is and what it is as a whole. Misconception, yeah. So I thought that was interesting, and we won't talk about it that much. If you want to hear more of our thoughts on the Dark Tower trailer, check out our bonus episode last week.
In Mr. Conception.
Okay. Anyway.
Hilarious. That's it. We're done.
So a couple other things I want to touch on really briefly, and then we can go into our reviews. Is that Deep Six, the web series that I talked about a while ago that I backed on Indiegogo. They are they're deep in editing for the show. They released a teaser trailer that I'll put a link to in the show notes, and I may throw audio from it into the episode at the end, or probably right here.
Space is hard. We're always at risk. This scientific mission is important, but it's not worth risking our lives over.
We should have left 5 months ago.
Duke, we have to leave.
What are you talking about? What the hell is this?
It's contact.
5.
We've been here 11 months, and suddenly all hell breaks loose?
4.
Did you see anything?
3.
You need to get out of there now.
2.
I'm not gonna die out here.
1.
We're on the verge of a breakthrough.
I am assuming that none of us get any sleep until we figure this out. Unless you want to die here.
I'll make coffee.
So you guys can check it out because it seems really interesting. It's a very science-based, hard sci-fi web series, and it looks like it's going to be interesting. And they've been having updates about it and everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like. And now they have a teaser trailer out, so you can check that out. But I recommend checking it out. I'll put the link in the show notes. And then Tiny, finally, this Chris Pratt thing. We don't have to talk about it that much because it's ridiculous in my opinion. But have you heard about this Instagram outrage thing?
Didn't he say? I thought I saw a headline or something where basically he told people to turn up the volume or something.
Yeah,
and people said it was insensitive to the hearing impaired.
Yeah, I guess what happened was he had posted an Instagram video with subtitles that said turn up the volume because Instagram has like when you're scrolling through Instagram, they don't play the audio on the videos as they autoplay, they just play the video.
Right.
So he posted this funny video of him of the subtitle saying like turn up the volume so you can hear my voice. And then like people that are like hearing impaired, they got super offended and kind of like went after him with pitchforks. And it's just like, manage your outrage. It's
right.
It's not like he targeted a specific group of people and said, hey, you guys suck because you can't hear me, try to hear me.
It's not like he was taunting the hearing impaired.
Exactly. And it's just like this fucking outrage culture is so annoying because like they'll hone in on something, like something will be honed in and blown out of proportion. Like if a group of people on the internet deem something as offensive when it's not even like I get being outraged about something or being offended by something if the intent is clear, like the intent is to
Right.
troll someone or to provoke someone or to be offensive to someone. Like I get that type of outrage, but this is Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt's the coolest guy.
Yeah.
And it's like he didn't do this intentionally. And so it annoyed me when I saw that. But I saw his like apology Instagram post, which friend of the show Robert Feckes and frequent guest, he posted on his Facebook about like how if he was Chris Pratt, he would have put the clip from Guardians 1 where he's doing the wind up thing with his middle finger. That would have been his apology, but Chris Pratt's actual apology, and like, man, he is the coolest like celebrity person on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
He just is. It's like this long thing saying like, hey, I understand how you can construe that as being offensive. I didn't mean it that way. I'm really sorry. And it's very heartfelt, very genuine. Talks about how like at one point he's like, I know that a lot of you are probably saying like, oh, his publicist made him do it, but I control my social media. I totally control it. I'm like, it's me 100%. I feel bad, so I apologize. But like he accompanied it with a video of him, and I don't know what exactly he was saying, but he was signing like his apology.
Oh, really?
And I was like, man, and like you could tell, I mean, he's an actor, but I mean, you could tell like he seriously like meant it. And I'm like, dude, I wish, what is that movie called? I don't even remember the movie. Oh, I wish Passengers was better, but you're amazing.
I wouldn't have apologized.
Oh yeah, me neither.
I wouldn't even have addressed it.
Mm-hmm.
Just kept gramming. That's what the cool people call it.
Well, Tiny, I'm really offended by that. Okay? Because there are so many grandmothers on the planet who don't do that. So you have targeted this entire person, this entire group of people.
Fuck grandmas.
Jesus Christ.
Damn
Just
SJWs.
Kidding. Oh, God. So today on the pod, do you have any comments about that?
I don't care.
Okay, good job. So yeah. So should we do Guardians first or Fate of the Furious?
I don't know.
Okay, let's do Fate of the Furious because I don't think we're going to do spoilers for it.
Okay.
Right? It
That's
can be
fine.
kind of brief. Do you want to do brief? Or do you have more?
We can do brief.
Okay.
Ouch. This is impossible. Which is why you're gonna need a little help. I will beat you like a Cherokee drum. We about to go up like that. Oh, it took longer than I expected. If you're gonna catch Dom, you guys are gonna work together. Surprise. I just fell in love.
Okay, so yeah, Fate of the Furious. I'm gonna have to rename the title in my notes here, but that's fine. The Fate of the Furious was the eighth. Yeah, because Fate.
F8.
Yeah, F8. Eighth movie of the Fast and Furious franchise. It's it's funny because when I checked into the movie theater and everything, like there were like a couple comments that I got that were like one was like, "Why? Too bad you didn't spend your time on a good movie."
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like I don't know. First of all, in that movie theater, I was like, this is the start of the summer season for me.
Yeah.
It's just, this is it. It's like, this is a fun, stupid action movie. This is what I want in my summer popcorn entertainment thing. And it's just, it's so much fun. But, Tiny, real briefly, why don't you talk about your relationship with the Fast and Furious franchise and your expectations going into Fate of the Furious?
Man, I mean, since 2001, I've lived my life a quarter mile.
I knew you were going to say that.
I really have. No, I mean, they're just so much fun. These movies are just so fun. There's no, Like, to me, that's untouchable. Like, you can sit down to address what you were just talking about, kind of. You can sit down and just rip this whole franchise to shreds because it's so ridiculous. But all someone has to do, you can do this with anything. You can do it with Transformers, you can do it with TMNT or whatever, or Twilight. I don't care what it is.
Sure.
You can rip it to shreds, but someone else can sit down and just be like, dude, it's just so much fun for me. You can't take that away from anybody. Like, you just can't take that away from people. If you genuinely have fun with it, like, that's something that's untouchable in my book. And to me, every penny of the $11 I spent to see Fate of the Furious was well spent. Nice. And it's just so fun. It's over the top, and it's I think since Fast 5 maybe, I've always thought that the subtitle for any Fast and Furious movie should be War on Physics,
right,
or like FU Physics or something like that. It's just ridiculous, but it's ridiculously fun. And this movie really continued that. I thought there were genuinely a couple things that were like more than just fun. I was like, that's actually kind of good. Like,
okay,
I don't know. Like, I'm not saying like, you know, the Oscars need to take a look at Fate of the Furious or anything. I'm just saying, I was like, oh, it's actually kind of a good idea.
The Oscars are busy giving awards to Suicide Squad, but that's not
yes, they are. Oh, Oscar-winning Suicide Squad. But I mean, and there were just a couple things that, like, while they're ridiculous, they're very clever. Yeah. Like it's a clever plot device, or like not a plot device, but like a clever
set piece,
something like that. Yeah. So I don't care what anyone says. I love the damn movie franchise. I had a great time and loved every minute of it. And I will be there opening weekend for Fast 9 or Furious 9.
It'll be called Fine. And I echo a lot of those sentiments, and this kind of is a little bit of a tangent, but before I go into my kind of broad thoughts and everything, in my relationship with the franchise, you know, it's interesting. You make the comparison to like Twilight and Transformers and everything. Like before Guardians 2, I saw the trailer for Transformers the last night or whatever it is, and like it's interesting to me because, like, I mean, we've been known on the podcast to rip the Transformers franchise apart and really not be fans of it. And I mean, I say that, but I mean, still, I stand by everything we've said about it. It's kind of garbage. But it's interesting because, like, yeah, it's kind of the same principle. Like, it's just cool shit blowing up and action set pieces and everything. Like, they're very different types of movies, obviously. But it's interesting. Like, is there like a reason like why we gravitate toward the Fast and Furious franchise rather than like Transformers or another like big budget franchise that's kind of more of a staple of the season rather than, you know, coherently made plots?
I think the difference is that the Fast and Furious franchise is not trying to be anything more than it is. It knows exactly what it is. It's not trying to win Oscars. It's not trying to get the art crowd or anything like that. It's not, they're not going for a well-crafted script and this and that. They know exactly what they are. You know what you're going to get with the movie. And there's no like pretension there. They're not being pretentious. They're just like, yeah, this is a goofy blow it up movie, and they acknowledge that and take it over the top. Whereas like Transformers, they're like trying to get nominated for Oscars every year, and they're like, you know, they're like that
for like special effects.
Yeah, like they want special effects Oscars every year, and they want people to take them seriously to an extent. Like, they're not just being goofy. They don't put goofy. They don't have The Rock and Jason Statham just going back and forth needlessly like a bunch of idiots with stupid one-liners and
one-liners about how they want to beat each other up with just like the faintest hint of homoeroticism behind it. Exactly. Like just the faintest.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great.
So, oh my God. Like, Yeah, like Transformers doesn't have that, and Twilight didn't have that. Like,
Right.
there's a difference there. There's a difference in like attitude and like I'm not sure how to put it into words, but
That makes sense, though. I understand what you're saying.
they're going for something different with Fast and Furious.
Yeah. And Transformers is trying to, shed a light on why statutory rape is okay, apparently. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Is it?
There was one scene in the Transformers 4, I think, Transformers, where it's like Mark Wahlberg's daughter is like a teenager, like something, and like her boyfriend is like super old, much older than her.
Really?
And like there's a scene in it where he actually takes out, like the guy, like Mark Wahlberg is confronting the guy about it, and the guy takes out a like laminated thing from his wallet that's like a piece of like legislation saying that it's like the Romeo law or something like that. That's like, it's okay for us to date because of this ruling and stuff. It's like, if you're going through that much, like what what?
If you're laminating and carrying around legislation, then
if you're writing a script, that's like, why are you going through so much trouble to have this put into the movie? Like, what the hell? Anyway, that's Transformers. We're talking about Fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
My relationship to the franchise is I was a huge fan of it, like the first movie when I was a kid, because I think I was like 14 at the time, and like that's like when I was like I'm gonna have my driver's license and stuff, and I was like, wait, I would go on record and say like I was more of a I was into cars the way that someone who's into DVDs and Blu-rays are into the covers of DVDs and Blu-rays.
Okay.
Like, no idea what the fuck is going on inside or anything.
Yeah.
But like, this car looks pretty.
That was shiny.
Yeah. So I was just like, I liked those movies and the chase scene, and there was a Charger, which I really liked. I loved Chargers. And so I really loved the first movie. And then like, I just kind of grew out of it and everything. And I realized that the first movie is Point Break with cars, or as I've said in the past, Point Break, BRAKE. So I just kind of fell out of it. But the fascinating thing is that around like Fast 5 or Fast and Furious, Fast 4, whatever, around that time this franchise stumbled into it was limping and then stumbled into this vast like connected universe where characters from the third movie, the third movie is a prequel to the stuff that's happened between 4, 5, and 6, and it's this weird timeline thing, and it fits well, and like we joke about how they put an emphasis on family. Like when I think I don't remember who I said it to or when I said it, but I was like, seeing Fate of the Furious, gonna take a drink every time Dom says family, because that's that's the movie. The movies are just like, I got friends, I don't got friends, I got family, like that kind of thing. And it's ridiculous, but it has a ridiculous heart to it. And it makes you, kind of root for the characters. They're not, it's action set pieces and shit blowing up and stuff, but like you get the sense that these characters actually care for each other.
Right. Even
as melodramatic and over the top as it may be, it still gives you that hook. So that's why I respect the Fast and Furious franchise and stuff. Fate of the Furious I thought was such a blast. I really liked that the opening of it, which they've been kind of doing this at least the last couple movies, where the opening scene is kind of a race scene. And this one was a lot of fun. It was like in was it Cuba?
Yes.
Cuba, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool like set piece for it. The movie was directed by F. Gary Gray, which I thought he did a fine job. Justin Lin used to direct them, right?
Yeah, he directed like 2 or 3 in a row.
Yeah, and I liked his work a lot. So, and I mean, F. Gary Gray isn't. I don't think his work was better than Justin Lin's or anything. If anything, it was on par. I didn't really notice anything too spectacular. There were some really cool set pieces. I thought that the remote controlled car scenes, that's maybe a misnomer. There's a scene where there's a set piece where there's a chase scene in New York City.
Yeah.
I'll say that. That's really, really cleverly done and really looks cool.
That's the part I was talking about. I was like, this is kind of one of the coolest things they've ever done. And like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that ironically. Like, this is ridiculous, but
Yeah.
it's kind of smart or kind
It
of
is.
clever too. Like, I genuinely like that a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, it has a lot of fun stuff. It's a lot of silliness. And, the one complaint I would have is that the heart aspect of it, the kind of family aspect of it was kind of felt not hollow, but it felt kind of like after having, the 7th movie be, Brian O'Connor's send off and everything, and having that be, having that emotional tug of it, after, Paul Walker passed away. Obviously that's going to have a lot more, connection to the audience and everything and to the filmmakers.
Yeah.
This one just kind of felt like kind of going back to what it was before. It didn't have that, which is not the fault of the movie. And I'm not saying I wish someone would have died, but, that's a terrible joke. But I'm just saying that, it kind of felt like the family emphasis was just kind of like, this is what we do.
Right.
Yeah. So Tiny, any specifics you want to talk about?
Yeah, I missed Paul Walker, which
Mm-hmm.
it's really sad. It's a bummer. It's still sad. And I felt like, obviously there's nothing they can do, but I genuinely felt like that absence.
Yeah.
And so that's a shame. I'm wondering if there's something they can do to like, I don't know what they could do to fill that void, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like the family thing that's overplayed. A lot of it was contingent upon Vin Diesel and Paul Walker.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that was kind of the crux of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now that that's not there, I think they're trying to stress the whole Dominic Toretto and Letty,
Yeah.
their family thing, and like it worked fine for this movie, but it just doesn't have the same feel to it.
Exactly. And like I can kind of take or leave Michelle Rodriguez as an actress, and her chemistry with Vin Diesel I think is just okay. But yeah, I know what you mean. It is very much prevalent in this movie that they don't have that same backbone as Paul Walker and Vin Diesel did.
Yeah. And then I'll say Charlize Theron I thought was great.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed her as a villain quite a bit. I thought it was one of the better villains they've had in a while.
Okay, yeah.
I liked that. And then I don't know if you noticed this, but Natalie Emmanuel, the African American actress,
The hot hacker.
the hot hacker
Yeah.
chick. I can't remember her name on Game of Thrones. She's the Khaleesi's right hand.
Yeah.
It's
it's not. I keep wanting to say Melisandre, but it's like something similar to that name.
Missandei.
Missandei, sure.
Missandei.
I forgot.
Her.
Yeah.
British actress.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice that she has like 3.5 lines in this movie?
Yeah, she.
There's the one hacking scene kind of early on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it. Like otherwise, she just has like a line here or a line like.
Yeah, and even like in the car scenes and stuff, like she's a passenger.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's weird too, because, and I mean, I'm gonna say this like half facetiously, but kind of the other thing that's kind of a bummer about Paul Walker, like passing away, not bummer about Paul Walker passing away, but them having to write out Brian O'Connor is that they they have to write out Jordana Brewster.
Yeah.
Like she's out of a job. And like,
Yeah, she is.
and like, you can kind of see that like, this hacker girl could be like,
She could fill that void as well.
Yeah, not necessarily like replace her or anything, but like
Right.
be the other prominent female on the team.
The female lead character is now Letty.
Yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez, but she was always kind of the distant, hard ass.
Yeah.
Not exactly a deep character. Mm-hmm. Not to say that she does a bad job or anything. Like I enjoy Michelle Rodriguez a lot, but
Right.
Jordana Brewster was kind of like the mom of the group.
She was.
You know? And that's gone now.
Yeah.
And Ramsey is the character's name.
Yeah.
Could possibly fill that role. But like, and there's this whole love triangle that they, quote unquote, love triangle,
Right.
that they kept emphasizing throughout. It started in the last movie, and now they kept going with it in this movie, but it was 90% Ludacris and Tyrese Gibson just going back and forth with each other. It's like she was barely even, she didn't get to say anything.
She didn't, and it's like it's all for comic relief instead of any kind of like character building or anything.
Yeah,
which is kind of what they need for that character, for the character of Ramsey, because I mean she's a newcomer and she's still To kind of switch gears a little bit, I want to talk about something real quick. That's a complete. Like I'm not going to harp on it or anything. I forgot to mention this when we did our Dark Tower trailer thing. Scott Eastwood is in this movie.
He is,
and I get kind of not irritated, but like I've heard people say that like, oh, Scott Eastwood should have played Roland in the movies.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And I'm like, the only reason that Scott Eastwood, like you want Scott Eastwood, is because he looks like Clint Eastwood, who's the basis for Roland. Yeah. It's like seeing him in this movie, I'm like, you need someone who has range. Like,
ironically, I didn't see it. I don't see him as Roland.
Oh, me neither.
Like,
no, absolutely not.
I can't see it.
Yeah, and I think this just like in this movie, he's comic relief. He's not taken seriously or anything, but I don't think the guy has the chops to do something like that.
Right. I don't think so either.
Yeah, and he wasn't bad in this movie. I think that they hit that note of him being kind of a by the book, inexperienced guy just a little too hard, and it kind of felt like it kind of felt a little rote. Like it didn't feel like it was anything special in the movie. And I don't know if part of that was because of his performance or not, but it just kind of felt like like you could have cut him out of the entire movie and it wouldn't have made any difference to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is also a Kurt Russell double feature we're doing.
That's true. Yeah. Look at that.
But yeah, Scott Eastwood, I agree. Like he's fine, but for him as Roland, like Clint Eastwood would be, Clint Eastwood 40 years ago would have been awesome Roland, because Clint Eastwood's like a hard ass. Yeah. And he sounds like a pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? Like, Scott Eastwood sounds like a dude from California. Right. And he's like really pretty. And, I mean, yeah, he's not rugged. Right. I'll say that. Yeah. So.
Exactly. So Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson.
God, that was so much fun.
Hobbs and Deckard.
I will beat your ass like a Cherokee drum.
Cherokee drum.
So gay.
So awesome.
And a little racist, maybe?
A little bit racist, just a little bit.
Yeah. You could construe it as racist.
Yeah. But like, oh my God, it's just like another complaint is that that didn't really have as much of a payoff as I was hoping it would.
Yeah.
But just like the interactions between it's so fun. It's so fun. Just that hint of homoeroticism that I referenced. Yeah. It's like it plays on that, buff, super oily, masculine 80s action movie, 80s and 90s action movie that was like steeped in like homoeroticism and stuff, like very clearly. It kind of pays a little bit of homage to that, in just such a fun way, without beating us over the head with it.
And it's just the way they infuse it with ridiculous macho, literally before one of those interactions, or I think during it, The Rock rips a concrete bench off the wall and starts curling it. Like lifting weights.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And then in another one, they literally, each one of them takes a side of a transmission and they lift it up and bolt it onto a car. Like, it's like the most manly macho bullshit you could possibly, like, It's so over the top.
I love this
beautiful.
franchise.
It's so ridiculous.
I really do.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, and then Kurt Russell I enjoyed. I love Kurt Russell in anything, really.
I know. I've really come to like that guy a lot.
Yeah, I kind of wish he had more to do in these last two movies. Since he was introduced in the last movie. He's kind of he's kind of the behind the scenes corporate, like not corporate, but like
G-Man.
G-Man. Yeah, he's the government operative that's kind of running things. But yeah, so I kind of hope that they do more with him in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Charlize Theron, you said that you really liked her. I thought she was pretty good. I didn't really take her.
She's pretty diabolical, I think.
She is, yeah. And there's some really interesting and intense things that she does throughout the movie. And kind of the thing that she has hanging over Dom is, I thought that was an interesting wrinkle in the story.
Me too. Especially the climax of that, which we won't spoil.
Yeah, we can't talk about that, but it's so great. Like, and it's one of those unbelievably stupid things.
Yeah.
That they cut to like funny little bits throughout this huge sequence. That's so stupid and over the top, but it's so fun. It's just so fun.
It is.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to touch on, or should we kind of move on to our Guardians review?
Like I said, can't wait for Fast 9 or
Me too.
Furious 9.
I'm fine with that.
Hey.
Yeah, and real quick, Christopher Hivju, who plays Rhodes in the movie, he is definitely known. He's known as Tormund in Game of Thrones. Redbeard dude.
Oh yeah.
It was cool seeing him play a villain in this movie.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. So that's Fate of the Furious. Would you rank it in the Furious universe?
It's like asking me what my favorite breath of air is. I don't know.
Who's your favorite child?
I still think Fast 5 is my favorite.
Okay, sure.
The one in Rio, if people can't remember. I don't know, but I think it was definitely better than 7. 6.
I think so too.
I think it was better than 6 and 7.
Yeah, I don't remember 6 that well, but I think it was better than 7 also. Like, they did some cool things in 7. They went to Dubai.
Yeah.
And it
was about the whole God's Eye thing.
Yeah, that was the thing that I wasn't too keen on.
Right.
In 7, because it felt like just government surveillance.
Yeah.
Cool. It's sign of the times, but it's in every movie. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
and The Rock was in the hospital for most of it.
That's true. Yeah. I that was
unforgivable.
So yeah, it did give us the iconic line, "Daddy's got to go to work."
That's true.
So as he, by sheer willpower and brute strength, rips his arm from a cast.
Yeah.
Epic. So Fast 8, Fate, I thought was pretty good. Fate of the Furious was pretty good, and I look forward to Fast and Furious 9.
Yep.
Showtime, a-holes!
So, having reviewed Fast and Fate of the Furious, let's go ahead and get into our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Real quick, plot description, IMDb, set to the backdrop of Awesome Mixtape number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 continues the team's adventures as they unravel the mystery of Peter Quill's true parentage. It's written and directed by James Gunn, who is going to be handling Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Nice.
Yes, and we were huge fans of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep. When
it came out a couple years ago. And yeah, this movie was very highly anticipated by us. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how we went into the movie and how we saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I remember thinking that what's funny about the first Guardians of the Galaxy is that I think we talked about this 2 years ago or 3 years ago when it first came out, is that it's a little bit plot weak when you actually look at it, but everybody loved that movie, us included. And you know, I think I remember saying that the reason is because of the characters.
Yeah.
The characters are like borderline perfect, and the chemistry of everyone involved just worked so well. And so going into the second movie, I was worried about them being able to hang on to that and being able to continue that, and thinking like, okay, well, you know, are they going to be able to weave in a little bit better of a plot this time? How is this going to fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Are we going to get to see Thanos again, or still whatever? I don't know. They've been teasing it for like 26 years.
Right.
So, you know, I had all these questions, and it was really funny because I think they answered those questions. My concerns for it, I guess, they answered those in a really fun way, I think, which we'll get to.
Nice.
How about you going into it?
Going into it, I didn't really have that many reservations. I just kind of thought, you know, this, I was pretty sure I was going to like it. I had, my expectations were pretty well handled going into it, because I figured that James Gunn's at the helm. He did a fantastic job with the first one. And like you said, there were some issues with the original, and it's more issues with the Marvel Cinematic Universe rather than Guardians of the Galaxy. To borrow Honest Trailer's take on it, Guardians of the Galaxy is essentially Space Avengers.
Yeah.
Like beat by beat, and it has the weak villain problem and everything. So I kind of knew that. I knew that I still liked the original Guardians of the Galaxy, despite those flaws, and I figured that if anything, Volume 2 was going to be just a blast, or a fun viewing experience. And I was very pleasantly surprised. I ended up really liking it. We'll talk more about that. How did you see it?
I saw this with friend of the show and Patreon subscriber, Matt Andrico, and his wife. They're getting ready to have a baby this week. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
This week?
This week, yeah.
Are they gonna name it Groot?
I highly doubt it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Matt, if you're listening, you should name it Groot.
Yeah. So this was kind of like our last time to hang out with them before they have the baby.
Okay.
So it was really fun. We went to dinner and went and saw it at out at Brownsburg. And it was, I was like, I remember when we were playing this, I was like, well, why don't we go see the movie on Brownsburg instead of them coming to Indy? Because it's open. That's opening night, pretty much.
Right.
I assume there were like midnight screenings on Thursday night, probably.
Yeah. Or like
10
screenings.
Right. Friday's opening day, technically.
Right.
So I was like, it's going to be busy. So why don't we go out to Brownsburg? So hopefully it won't be so, busy. And it turned out we had to like wait in line and stuff. And
really?
There were a ton of people there. It was a full theater, but it wasn't like Star Wars or anything.
Right.
But it was full.
Okay. Nice. 2D, 3D?
2D.
Good.
But there was, gosh, what was it called? It was a 2D, but it was like GDX.
Oh yeah, I don't know the specifics of what it is. Kind of like the
I don't know if GDX is the right letters, but it's some generic term that they justify to make it to spend more money.
Stands for goddamn X. I don't know why.
I don't know.
You shouldn't laugh at that.
Anyway,
no,
it sounds like great digital or giant digital experience. I don't know, grand digital experience, something like that.
Kind of like the Dolby Atmos stuff, I guess.
It's really just their excuse to charge you a little bit more money for your ticket.
Sure.
I did not notice a difference at all.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
There was I will say really quickly, there was a lady who laughed way too hard and loud.
Really?
At everything. Like tiny, like if it was a serious moment and there's a little tiny joke in there, it's kind of like, you basically just smile as opposed to laugh. She was like, and like just really freaking loud.
Are you sure it wasn't Dave Bautista as Drax?
No, but she was more annoying than Drax.
Oh.
It was ridiculous. I mean, and she was like 4 or 5 seats down from Page.
Oh, that
and like
sucks.
sometimes she would just look over at me and like, is this lady fucking serious? It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw it in 2D as well. I was kind of worried about seeing it only because as I mentioned before, I went to a wedding this past weekend. Congrats, Yuri and John! Yay!
Yeah.
And it was in Dayton, Ohio, and we live in Indianapolis. So I drove to Dayton, went to the wedding, went to the reception, stayed the night, and then came back. And then on the way back, my friend that I went with, like, we were talking, and we're like, "Do you want to see Guardians of the Galaxy 2?"
Nice.
It's like, so after like a night of drinking and a 2-hour drive back to Indianapolis, we decided to sit in a theater for 2.5, 3 hours,
Right.
with previews to see it. And like, I was exhausted. So I was kind of concerned that I wasn't going to be able to stay awake. But, this was a Sunday matinee, and we bought tickets online an hour before the showing, hour before the screening, because, we were an hour away and we figured we might as well buy the tickets now. And like, they have at the AMC theaters, they have the premium seating, which is the backer rows. And then the Vanguard seating, which is the first like 4 or 5 rows, in the front. And on the premium section, there were no 2 seats together. Like, there was probably only like 5 seats available, and all of them were at different parts of the theater. So we ended up having to get the Vanguard seats in like the 4th row back, which wasn't that bad, because I mean, we were able to get center seats, so it was fine. But it was just like, I mean, that's a Sunday matinee. It's like, granted, like, you're expecting it to be super busy, but yeah. And I was able to stay awake, but man, that night I slept so freaking well. It was a long weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw it in 2D, and yeah, did you notice there were like a ton of trailers? Like, way more than I was expecting.
I think there was at least 6, maybe 7 trailers. I mean, it was crazy.
And then like, I knew that it wasn't going to play the Dark Tower trailer, because we had been messaging after you saw it. But what kind of bugged me, or kind of, I don't know if bugged is the right word, but kind of like made me think like, okay, just get on with the movie. Was like they did their regular previews and everything. Each one had like been approved by the MPAA. And then like, I noticed after a while, like the last like handful of trailers were like, they didn't have that. They just had the logos and stuff, and then went into the trailers. And what was funny was that it's because they were Disney and Marvel trailers. So they had like Thor Ragnarok, Spider-Man Homecoming. They had Pirates of the Caribbean 89 or whatever one they're on now. And then like one other one, and they were all just in rapid succession. Oh, one other one, The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So like, and I was just like, man, Disney needs to stop doing all this, because I just want to see Guardians. And like, I love trailers, I really do, but I mean, granted, I was tired and a little cranky. So.
The internet's kind of ruined them a little bit.
And that's true too. That's absolutely true. It's just, it's not
the same appeal as it used to have.
It really isn't, because it's not, you're never discovering a movie unless it's something that you don't, unless it's something that's just not on your radar. And with the internet the way it is, and as pervasive as it is,
ubiquitous,
it's like, if something's not on your radar, it's because, you know, it's not going to be on your radar.
Right.
So that's true. But anyway,
it's funny you said that, because there was a trailer for, I don't know if you saw this one before it, the movie Valerian.
Oh yeah, City of something or whatever.
City of something, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. With Cara Delevingne and I can't remember that guy's name.
Chronicle and Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Man, I can't think of his name.
Dane DeHaan, thank you. Yeah. Is it Luc Besson?
Luc Besson. Yeah, and we saw the trailer for that, and it wasn't that it was off my radar. I just hadn't bothered to really watch the trailer.
Sure.
man, that movie looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Just the visuals. I was like, holy shit. Like it's true.
Right.
It's true to form for Luke Besson because he's very visual director. But I was like blown away. I was like, I want to see this movie in the theater just for the visuals because it looks really beautiful.
It does. I kind of get a little bit of a Jupiter Ascending vibe from it.
Me too.
Yeah. So let's see how it is. I guess it's based on a graphic novel. So
apparently it's a really famous graphic novel.
that's what I hear.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Anyways.
So yeah, that was our experience going into Guardians Volume 2. Real quick before we get into our actual review, I just want to read a few Facebook group messages that we received or feedback we got about the movie and what they thought. Brandon Cruz from several podcasts, the Submitted for Your Approval podcast, a Twilight Zone podcast, and a Rick and Morty podcast called Interdimensional RSS. And also, of course, Apathetic Enthusiast. He said, I liked it better than the first, which is awesome.
Nice.
And Tony Troxel, who posted it on Indiana Geeking at geekingindiana.com on his Media Monday. I'll put a link in the show notes. And yeah, he said, it was good. One of the better Marvel Cinematic Universe films on first viewing. It felt very disjointed in the first half, which I found jarring and disappointing. Still, while not dethroning the original as my all-time favorite, it's up there. And then my friend and coworker Alex said, I absolutely loved it. I can't say it was better than the first, but it definitely held up to the hype. Who I want to mention, she and I work in a call center. Our cubicles are like 3 feet away from each other. She typed that while she was on a call.
That's a pro right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Professional.
And then the aforementioned Matt and Draco, who is a Patreon subscriber and friend of the show, he said, I absolutely loved it. The opening credits were amazing. The writing was spectacular. One of the best Marvel movies to date. And our friend Chad from thesecularperspective.com said, I loved it. One of the best opening sequences I have seen in a movie recently, right up there with Deadpool.
Nice.
So yeah, so thank you guys for doing for commenting on that. I gave very little notice, so I appreciate your guys' feedback on that. And if you want to join the Facebook group, find that at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. There's a link to the Facebook group. Just join and join in on all the fun. So Tiny, let's talk about this movie.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. So, of course, we're going to do a spoiler-free review, and then we'll have a spoiler discussion later. What did you think? Let's start with this. How do you think that this movie, this may be a loaded question to start on, how do you think this movie matches up to Guardians 1 and the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole?
That's a good starting point.
It's a terrible starting point.
Well, I think it's important to note. I think I liked it better than the first one.
Interesting.
Which, when I was walking out, I was like, God, I think that might be better than the first one. I think I might like it more than the first one, but I didn't want to say that because the first one was my movie of the year,
right?
2014, deservedly so. And I was like, man, the first one's so good, and I don't know, it's the sequel. But having thought about it over the weekend, I was like, yeah, I liked it better.
Nice.
Not to take anything away from the first, but so I think it is better than the first one. And as far as it fitting into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it was almost like James Gunn was like, let's just put that to the side for now. Because I think Nebula and Gamora basically just mention Thanos a couple times, and that's it. Like, you don't see him at all. They don't harp on it.
I was so happy about that.
Me too.
And not much about the Infinity Stones either.
Right.
It's like, I'm super, like, yeah, because that's one thing about the MCU that's been kind of getting under my skin.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I love that James Gunn was kind of like not playing lip service to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in this. So as far as where it fits in, it almost doesn't. I mean, it's just, it's almost like loosely connected to to where the conclusion of this phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going, which is that phase, that's the end of phase 3, right? Is Infinity Wars, or is that?
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be the conclusion of phase 3 is Infinity Wars. So I'm glad he wasn't really paying lip service to that. And I'm glad that it's not, it almost doesn't fit into phase 3. It's just kind of loosely tied to the MCU.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
And it's interesting, and I'll shy away from spoilers and this thing, but kind of as a jumping off point from that talking point, or from your opinion there, is that one of the stingers at the end of the movie, the famous Marvel stingers, of course, it hints at a character that was originally going to be in the movie. James Gunn intended on a certain character being included in the movie, but it just got hinted at in the stingers, in one of the stingers. And what I read a whole article about it on Nerdist where he felt like that would be kind of over encumbering the plot with too many subplots and having too much going on and everything. And I kind of took that in a couple ways. One, I see that as James Gunn knows what he's doing. Like he comes from humble beginnings, I guess, as a filmmaker. So he's kind of not anti, but he's kind of the antithesis to Hollywood machine filmmaking. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to put together a script and everything. And it also shows on Marvel's part that I feel like maybe they've learned from Age of Ultron that not to have a ton of stuff in a movie that sets up another movie, and not to have a bunch of stuff that doesn't really fit into the main plot, and kind of streamline things, because that's a better experience. I feel like Marvel Studios is growing in their storytelling in that regard. Mm-hmm. So I kind of dug that. And yeah, for me, I'm not gonna say it's better than the first. Were you done with your initial thoughts, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not gonna say that I liked it more than the first one, because the first one is that's one of those movies that I can throw it on and watch it at any time and never get bored with it or disappointed with it or anything. It stays fresh. Mm-hmm. So in order for me to really place where Guardians Volume 2 is, I'll have to see it at least 2 more times.
Yeah.
But the things that they did, the kind of the growth that they did for each of the characters and the dynamics that were kind of prominent in the movie worked like gangbusters for me. Mm-hmm. They really highlighted the attributes of each character that they utilized each character in a way that that really highlights what we want as an audience and what worked in the first one. So you have Drax doing doing his whole Drax thing, and then you have Star-Lord and Gamora's flirtatious thing. You have all of these different combinations and stuff, and it really, they're putting them together. It's kind of it kind of feels like Volume 1, they did Guardians of the Galaxy, and then now they're okay, this is what all worked really well in Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's put them into this movie that isn't pigeonholed to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the way that other movies are, and it's not. I don't want to say this because it's way too negative a connotation, but it's not following the pattern of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or it's not a paint by numbers thing. It's not Space Avengers, and we've proven ourselves with Guardians 1. Let's take what worked, put it into a really unique package in this huge multi-billion-dollar franchise. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate what they did in that regard, or how they utilized the strengths of each character and each subplot in the finished product. We'll talk more in depth about the whole movie, but I really, really enjoyed it. And, I really enjoyed it, and I think I can save this part about spoilers, but, the heart of it, the kind of core of the story, it kind of got to me. It was really emotional.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And I really applaud them for pulling that off.
Yeah. I think to your earlier points about James Gunn coming from humble beginnings, I think I remember seeing him on like a late night talk show or something, or maybe an interview. I don't know what it was, but he basically said they're talking about the success of it, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. This movie, this is my 5th movie or 6th movie or whatever." He's like, "This is my 5th movie, and it made $1 billion, which is $1 billion more than my first 4 movies." And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of true. That's kind of how it worked. I mean, I love his earlier movies, but but yeah, that one kind of took the cake, and this one's doing great so far. But yeah, I mentioned when we first started that, you know, I had worries about maintaining the chemistry and the depth of the characters, and are they going to fix the problem of the kind of weak plot and the weak villain? Are they going to be able to overcome that? And the thing that I love so much about the first one was the fact that the characters are just so great and they have such terrific chemistry. And so basically it was almost like James Gunn was like, you know what, screw you. We're just going to make the whole movie about the chemistry between the characters, and it's going to be about the characters. That's what the plot's going to be. And I was like, oh, okay, good idea. Cause that worked amazingly well.
It really did.
I think that decision and going in that direction really speaks volumes to James Gunn as a creative person and a director and a storyteller, because he basically dedicated a whole movie, a whole sequel to developing characters. I mean, that's almost entirely what this movie was.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked so much about how much we love character development, and you can have a weak plot but have incredible characters, which he proved in the first movie. So that's just all he worried about in this movie, and I think it just worked. I would say it worked borderline perfectly. I think in this movie, I really loved it. And to your point about the emotionality of it, I kind of choked up at
I did.
Like 2 or 3 points.
Oh yeah.
I was like, holy crap. This is like, I don't think any other Marvel movie has done that to me so far. I just thought it was incredible. And he didn't just, I mean, you know, the plot was kind of centered around Star-Lord and everything. And so obviously a majority of the development took place with that character, but I really loved what he did with Yondu and Rocket.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that kind of came out of left field for me. I mean, I thought those were I thought those 2 characters were rounded already. I thought we had kind of gotten to the meat of them and that's it.
Yeah.
But we completely didn't. And just he kind of like flipped it on its ear and made it a completely different thing. And I just, it was incredible. This movie made me think so much of like a Joss Whedon movie.
Yeah.
I thought this was a very Joss Whedon movie, which I mean that in the highest respect and the most complimentary way possible. Because I still think Avengers is my favorite MCU movie.
Oh, really?
The first Avengers. And I think a big reason for that is because of Joss Whedon's skills with bringing a group together and developing characters. And I think that's one of my favorite things. And I think James Gunn just did that as well as Joss Whedon did. So
yeah,
in my book anyways. Having said all those amazing things, I wasn't crazy about the whole Sylvester Stallone thing.
The whole Ravager thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the things going into the movie that I had reservations about going to see the movie without having time to prep to watch the original, because I knew Michael Rooker was back, and I part of the first movie was just like Yondu and that whole team are just kind of they're kind of there, and they're kind of they make sense to the plot. They're integral to the plot and everything, but it's just they seemed almost ancillary.
Yeah.
And I like the way that they were incorporated into this movie. But I had that hesitation because I thought that I'd be a little bit lost with the motivations and stuff, because it's been a while since I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. But I think that was also just me overthinking things like I do with everything else in my entire life. Yeah, and to your point, yeah, it is very much a character driven movie. There are action set pieces, and it kind of feels it kind of and maybe this isn't a fair comparison, and maybe I'm kind of misplacing my comparisons to it, but it kind of felt a little bit like Star Trek Beyond, where we get more character focus rather than action focus. Like in Guardians Volume 2, we've got it set up to where we know where the characters are and everything. It starts out with a pretty awesome like set piece, and we have like set pieces throughout the movie, but they come about kind of organically. Like they don't feel out of place, and when you get to the big climax of the movie, they earned that climax. They earned that situation that they put them in, and it's not like the mysterious blue sky beam that's in every other Marvel and comic book movie in general. It's like it's an interesting plot that has a lot of resonance with the cast of characters and everything, and it plays with it's a very plot centric situation that comes about.
Right.
I don't know if that, or character centric. Mm-hmm. To bring us into the climax of the movie. We don't really have a set outline for how we're going to do this, but I just want to say, fucking Baby Groot.
Yeah.
The cutest, most adorable thing I've ever seen in a movie.
Pretty much.
Like every time I loved how they utilized Baby Groot, and every time it was every single time that character was on screen, it worked for me.
Yeah.
In every conceivable way. I loved the way that Baby Groot was in the movie.
Yep. And I remember seeing the trailers for Volume 2, and I was thinking, like, man, that's just pandering, because people, I'll say specifically women, loved like the little plant Baby Groot at the end of the first movie, and he's dancing to the end of it. People just gobbled that up, and people just loved that. It turned into the internet ran with it. And I just pictured James Gunn sitting there writing the second script and being like, well, we're going to put Baby Groot in there because people loved it and it'll help us get the women demographic. And like, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was a calculated thing. But having seen the movie, it really wasn't. He was a legit character, and he was pretty funny and integral to the plot. It wasn't just some stupid little ploy. Right. I mean, I'm sure that may have been part of it. But it worked. It worked a lot better than I thought it was. I had some bad preconceptions about it, and it ended up working out.
I think the best mark for me, or the best gauge for how well Baby Groot worked for me, is that throughout probably about halfway through the movie, I kind of thought I felt like Baby Groot was so strong as a character, and like everything about that character and everything about everything that Baby Groot did on screen worked so well that I seriously thought, and I haven't rewatched it to confirm this or not, but I thought is this going to retroactively make Volume 1 harder to watch? Because am I going to see Groot and think this isn't working for me? He's not a Baby Groot. This is I was worried that Baby Groot will be the defining stage of the character, right, in the franchise, and that still remains to be seen. But I mean, he just worked so well. In the opening credits, I mean, so cool and so great. Funny. Yeah, the way that they did it was just so awesome.
Loved it.
Do we have any other broad thoughts, or should we jump into spoilers?
We could jump into spoilers.
Okay, before we do that, let's kind of give our overall thoughts on the movie. We already kind of touched on that at the beginning, but for the people who don't want to be spoiled, I loved the movie. We'll talk more about the plot and the emotional impact of it in our spoiler section. And if you want to skip it, just go ahead and go on to Potpourri. But yeah, overall, I thought that it was one of the strongest Marvel Cinematic Universe movies ever, and it makes me really excited for Volume 3. And I'm glad that it didn't waste a lot of time, or waste hardly any time by bogging it down with references to this Marvel Cinematic Universe, or to set up future movies. It just worked really well on its own, and it was a Guardians of the Galaxy sequel before it was a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in my eyes, and that worked brilliantly. And also Drax is so freaking great.
Yes.
His interactions with Mantis were fantastic. And we didn't even talk about Mantis, but I thought she was a worthy, newcomer to the scene.
Yeah.
Her ability and her the way she can be utilized within the Guardians of the Galaxy is a little confusing to me.
Yeah.
I don't see how that character has much longevity, but who knows?
Right.
So I really loved it. I'll definitely be buying it. And we'll see if I like it better than Guardians 1 when I rewatch it a few times.
Nice.
What were your overall thoughts?
Like I said, I do like it better than the first one. Not to take anything away from the first one. I just, the focus on the characters was just so rewarding, I think. I loved it. As far as where it fits in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's almost like it was kind of shoehorned in. I mean, not that's kind of being derogatory, and I don't mean it that way, but I just like how it wasn't focused on that. It was its own thing, and so I think that was a great move. I love the movie. I think it's definitely going to be a top 10 this year, without question. I don't know if it's going to be the movie of the year again, but it was really great. I think the first Guardians movie had a lot of momentum towards the end of the year because it came out in like August of 2014, whereas this is kicking off the summer. And the last Guardians, I think the Blu-ray came out like before Christmas or around Christmas time.
That sounds right.
So it just had a lot of momentum at the end of the year. For me to put it so high on my list that year. I don't know if this will be able to carry that momentum through the end of the year for it to be like my movie of the year. Plus, who knows what else is going to come out this year that might be better.
Right.
But it's going to be Dark Tower. Yeah, it's going to be a top 10 without question.
Nice.
For the year. I really loved it. I would give it a 9 out of 10.
Sweet.
Loved it.
Sweet. All right, well, we are going to jump into spoilers here. We're going to jump into spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I will play a clip from the trailer and then give you guys time to skip to Potpourri if you don't want to be spoiled, or turn off your phones or whatever you're listening to us on. So we'll jump into spoilers here in just a second.
I have to do everything. You are wasting a lot of time. That's a really bad sign.
Okay, and spoilers on for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So, Tiny, let's talk about the plot itself and about Kurt Russell in general. What did you think of the plot and kind of the emotional impact of it as well? Spoilers, what did you think?
I enjoyed the whole Star-Lord thing. I mean, I think we all wanted to explore that more. You know, as an audience, we wanted to know more about Star-Lord, Peter Quill, and to make it such a. We knew he was he wasn't just human, and that he was like kind of a special person because of the end of Guardians, the first movie. So I love the fact that in this movie, like, he's more than just special. He's like a god. I mean, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But then, since we're in full spoilers, I'll just go ahead and say it. You know, he sacrifices the divine part of himself in the climax of the movie. So, you know, he has this everyman quality to him that I think we all liked. And, you know, he's like the only human in the whole in the whole Guardians franchise, one of the only humans. At least he's the only Guardian who's human. And so, you know, we think of him that way, but until this movie, you know, we knew that he really wasn't. He was a special guy. And then I just think it's amazing that without hesitation at all, he just completely sacrificed that part of himself because, you know, he knew what was important. And now he really is just a dude from Earth. He's just a regular dude now. And that's an amazing part of his character. And the fact that he made that sacrifice just makes him even cooler.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, that was great.
So great. And
Yeah.
the whole, like, let's see, reading trivia, I saw that that Chris Pratt said that the script helped him get through his father's death and everything. And there's a lot about, like, fatherhood and about father and son relationships and all that. And, like, obviously Yondu, we're in spoilers, he dies, he sacrifices himself to save Quill, and they have that whole, like, Ego's your father, but I was your dad, or however it's phrased and stuff. And, like, that got me choked up because obviously last year I lost my father, so kind of a little raw there. But just, like, the beauty of it and the way that the movie handled that dynamic, like something as simple as Ego showing Quill how to utilize the power, like he has this power to kind of create anything, and like it turns into them fucking playing catch.
Yeah,
that's like, that was just beautiful. And then like you have just such an, like, the thing about Chris Pratt as an actor about Peter Quill as a character is that he has this genuine thing about him, this genuine energy to him. Like he's like a cool, he's a freaking cool guy.
Yeah.
And but he has, like, his own baggage and everything, and he deals with his issues and the issues that he faces in such a genuine way, and to see that play into such a heavy emotional storyline is really remarkable. And I think Chris Pratt nailed it, like, really, really well. And then just the beauty of the comedy in the script juxtaposed with that, like there's a line where, like, they're talking about, like, how he's going to create something, like he says he's going to create a giant Pac-Man statue on the planet, and then that pays off later because he creates, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Cracked up so hard.
It
when
was
I saw
so
that.
great, and it's such a dramatic moment.
Yeah.
Of them fighting, and then it's just fucking Pac-Man. Like, what? That's just so great.
And it demonstrates
yeah.
the humility of his character too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Ego literally has a big ego. He made a giant version of himself, and he used Pac-Man. That's just perfect.
And, like, when it's revealed that Ego killed his mother,
yeah,
like the way that it's written, like, I saw it, like there's a point where I'm sure everyone's like, oh no, he's about to say that this is about, and I'm glad that he just went ahead and said it,
right,
and it wasn't like some big thing revealed later, because it worked in the favor of the script there. But, like, when he said that, it was just like, it just ripped me apart, because not because he did it, but because you know what that means to Peter.
Yeah.
And also earlier about your point about getting choked up at a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, the only other movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I can think of doing that is the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, the original.
Yeah.
With his mother dying.
Right. Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else? Like, what's up?
I love Star-Lord's reaction to that moment when he finds out that Ego killed his mother, because it's one of the things I love about his character is that he's just so. One of the reasons why he's the de facto leader of the Guardians and why he's such a good leader is that he has like a code. He has like a set of values that he doesn't need to really sit and think about things, I guess, because as soon as he found out that Ego killed his mother, like, he barely got this sentence out and he pulled out his guns and started shooting him. And when in the climax of the movie, when he has to sacrifice the divine part of his identity, who he is as a person biologically, he doesn't even hesitate for a split second. Like, he's just like, nope, this has to go. This is, I mean, we have to say the universe, this is how it's going to, no question. This is what has to happen. And he just does it. And I think that's one thing I just love about his character. He just acts. He just does things at the drop of the hat because that's what's right to do, not because it's going to affect him in a certain way or In the first movie, he grabbed the Infinity Stone away from Ronan with the complete thought that it was going to just kill him.
Right.
Right. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. That's what has to happen. We have to save the galaxy. That's what I got to do. So he does it. And that's just such a cool part of his character.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That's what a hero should be. And
he's very...
I like the way that they reinforce that all the time.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
He's very, I don't want to say emotionally driven, but like he's very reactionary.
Yes.
And he's very,
he's not like a plan. He doesn't have like a plan.
yeah,
He's kind of
exactly.
like the
He's
Joker.
very,
He looks like a guy with a plan. He just reacts.
yeah,
like you
he's
said.
he's a reactionary character. He's very improvise heavy.
Right.
And everything. And that works really well with that character and with the way that Chris Pratt plays him.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else can we talk about with that?
One thing I wanted to bring up is that I've loved Michael Rooker for a long time, and so I'm glad that he and James Gunn are like friends, and he puts him in all his movies. But even in like James Gunn movies, I feel like Michael Rooker is mostly just a character actor.
Yeah,
he's not a leading guy or anything. But it was so awesome to see him just kick ass.
Oh yeah,
in such a major way in a movie, and like he wasn't just some ancillary character actor in this. Like he was kind of a linchpin of the plot of this movie, and to see him just crush that and just be awesome, like to be just an awesome character, be an awesome actor, give a great performance, and just kind of help carry the whole movie. Yeah. I was so happy to see Michael Rooker do that finally.
He was Mary fucking Poppins.
Yes, he was.
So great. So great.
Yeah.
But yeah, to that point, I agree 100%. What I loved about it is that the whole movie, like the emotional core of the movie and the big crux of the movie at the end is that Yondu is sacrificing himself to save Peter, and it's because he is... he's a father to him. Like he's the father figure in Peter's life, and he cares about him. And there's that really strong emotional thing. But then it's like you get that, but it's not like it's like they weren't done with him in the movie, because you get an incredible back and forth and incredible scenes with him and Rocket, where they're on the same kind of playing field with each other, and they notice the similarities between the two of them, and they have this bond that forms throughout the movie. And it's like if you're making the movie about Peter and Peter's two fathers in the movie, like you don't necessarily need to do this Yondu and Rocket bonding thing, except to expand upon the character and to really expand on the character dynamics and everything. And it's like, it's one of those things that the writing is so beautiful, because it is both about informing the Yondu character and setting up his sacrifice and setting up the emotional impact of the sacrifice and everything, while also humanizing the trash panda in the group. Humanizing Rocket. And like when you see that tear that Rocket has coming from his eyes when the Ravagers come out and they do their whole funeral thing, it's like it's beautiful and it's so impactful. Just really great. I loved it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like what else and stuff. Gamora and Nebula, yeah. That I thought was kind of a weak point of the movie for me.
Kind of smashed in there, shoehorned in there. Yeah.
But it didn't take away from it that much. I feel like it could have been stronger. That connection could have been stronger, but it was also the most, disconnected from the main plot thing.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see, what else is there?
In the little the unspoken thing between Gamora and Star-Lord was a little it was funny, but it was a little like, come on, let's kind of get on with this here. Like we know where this is going.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it paid off pretty well, because like they had that moment at the end when they're mourning Yondu. I thought that was a nice moment.
Totally,
it was a good payoff. But I think they did kind of reference the unspoken thing, and they kind of went a little cutesy with it. Maybe like one or two scenes too many. throughout the movie.
Gotcha.
Drax and is it Mantis?
Mm-hmm.
Those two characters, like Drax is so great.
Yes.
I loved all of his interactions with Mantis, really.
Yeah.
I thought it was just really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greatness.
Let's see, and then yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of running out of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so let's talk about like the tags and stuff. There's like 6 tags.
Were there? I didn't even stay till the very. I didn't even
Wait,
stay
you
till
didn't?
the very end. I
Really?
saw the Adam.
Why not?
I saw the Adam stinger.
Okay.
And I think that was it. I had to
What was
pee.
the final? Oh, okay, I got that.
I was tired. It was Friday night. I'd gotten up early.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old.
What was? I drove from another state.
Good for you.
Oh, thank you. The Adam one, yeah, let's talk about that because I referenced it in the non-spoiler section. Did you research what that was, or do you know anything about it?
Yeah, Adam is kind of he's one of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the books.
Yeah, Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock, yeah. That's all I really know.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. The kind of thing that I was talking about in the non-spoiler section is that he was one of the in the comic books. I guess he's very integral to the Infinity Stones plot line and the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos and all that. And James Gunn wanted to include him in the movie, have a more prominent role, but I'm so glad that he didn't because it would have bogged down everything. Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at in that non-spoiler section.
Yeah.
I didn't really have any clue until I researched it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So did you see Groot?
No.
You didn't?
I didn't know.
Oh man. Tiny.
I don't think I did, no.
Take a jug with you next time. Do you want me to spoil it for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So there's a stinger. I think it's kind of at the end, then maybe the final stinger, where it's Groot in a room just listening to music, and there's tree debris and stuff all over the place. And then Peter Quill comes in and he's talking to Groot, and it's very clear that it's teenage Groot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like Star-Lord's like, he's like, how many times do I have to tell you? You got to clean up your bushes and stuff, or your branches and stuff. You got to keep this place clean. And then all you hear is just this Groot kind of just doing saying I am Groot, but he's saying it in a tone that's like, I am Groot. And then Peter's like, I'm not boring. Like, you'll listen to me. It's like very much he's a defiant teenager.
That's awesome.
And it's so perfect. It's great. And I'm hoping that that's what Volume 3 is going to be, is Teenage Groot.
Yeah.
It's just, it's it's fun. They have fun.
Nice.
Let's see. And then there's also, we didn't talk about the Stan Lee cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm sure has such significance to the comics. I didn't have a chance to research it or anything. Right. I want to say that my gut reaction is that it's kind of confirming that he's some kind of entity from the comics. I'm going to butcher this. Fecus, when you're listening to this, correct me. But I guess he's like, I think it's like the Watchers in it or something. It's like this celestial being or something. So that reference where he's like, and then one time I was a FedEx driver talking about Civil War.
Right.
I kind of think that confirms that he's one of these entities.
It's the same character in all his cameos in the movies are the same character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, does that about cover it?
That covers it.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be closing down this review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Yeah, so, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Really liked it. And then, yeah, let's wrap this up with a quick potpourri.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so Potpourri, for those listening for the first time, Potpourri is a section of the podcast where we talk about something that we've been watching lately or something we're looking forward to. Anything we want, as long as it smells good, is kind of the tagline of Potpourri for us. We each have one thing. We're going to be kind of quick about it because we're running a little bit long on recording. So Tiny, what are you going to bring up for Potpourri?
I'm going to bring up the movie Gold that came out last year, towards the end of 2016, directed by Stephen Gaghan, starring Matthew McConaughey. I kind of just wanted to see it. I think it's the artistic follow-up to the previous Matthew McConaughey vehicle, Fool's Gold, where, no, I'm just kidding, it's not. I don't even remember that movie. I saw it, could not tell you anything that happens.
Yeah, him and Kate Hudson.
Yeah, they do something.
Sure.
Together. And they fall in love. I don't know. I don't remember that movie whatsoever.
Right.
Which is a testament to Matthew McConaughey's early career.
Right.
So I just wanted to watch this because I thought it looked funny. I was like, oh, Matthew McConaughey put on a bunch of weight and he's balding. Let's watch it. So that's kind of why I wanted to watch it. It was okay. It was a pretty solid movie. Okay. It's based loosely on a true story, sort of, very loosely from what I understand. But basically, Matthew McConaughey plays like a prospector who's trying to find, he's like a modern day prospector kind of, trying to find a huge gold reserve somewhere in the world and basically make a bunch of money on gold. And he finds this guy played by Edgar Ramirez, who's like a whiz kid kind of geologist who knows how to find reserves of precious metals, and the movie just kind of goes from there. So I really wanted to see the movie because of Matthew McConaughey playing a bit of a transformative character, and I thought it sounded like a cool plot. Unfortunately, I think, I'm not saying the McConaissance has come to an end or anything,
right?
But this kind of felt like some old school Matthew McOveract a little bit.
Oh, really?
A little bit. I'm not sure if he was actually good or if he was overacting. I can't really tell.
Okay.
Or I can't make that distinction. There were definitely several scenes where he was good, and I'm not sure if it was just supposed to be part of the character that he was just kind of over the top and he was kind of in people's faces and very flamboyant and emotive. I don't know if that was just supposed to be part of the character or if it was just Matthew McConaughey going a little overboard.
Sure.
I really couldn't tell. But I didn't dislike his performance or anything. I respect what he did physically with it. Like I said, he shaved his head and was wearing like a balding kind of wig. He was wearing false teeth and he put on like 40 pounds or something like that. So I respected all that, and I think he incorporated all those things into the character. The character is like this really kind of greasy car salesman kind of guy. Always has his tie undone and just like disheveled, kind of smoking cigarettes in every single scene. And he really played that shockingly well for a guy was at least the sexiest man in the world once or something like that. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
So that
sure,
that was,
you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know that it was 2004. No, so that was genuinely fascinating to watch. So it's a decent movie worth watching. I paid $5 to rent it, so I wanted to talk about it.
Sure.
But no, I like Edgar Ramirez as well. I think he was kind of phoning it in a little bit in this movie. But yeah, it was a pretty solid movie, and I think the story is a cool idea. And McConaughey's performance it's worth a watch just because I'm not sure how to take it, or
okay.
It's a very, I don't know. I'm trying to piece together how he did this performance or what he was going for there. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to hear what other people think.
Okay, interesting. And that's called Gold. You rented it. How did you rent it?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Nice. Cool. So let's see. For my potpourri, it's a recent arrival to Netflix. It's a documentary, Tiny. Nice. It was released on May 5th on Netflix. It's The Mars Generation. Which I'll go ahead and read just the plot description from IMDb. Aspiring teenage astronauts reveal that a journey to Mars is closer than you think. So it's about teenagers at space camp, and it has a lot of talking heads from like Bill Nye, Michio Kaku, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, among other kind of space, scientists and stuff. And it has a lot of interviews with the kids that are at the space camp, and it's kind of part documentary about these kids at space camp and part documentary about space travel and our history with space travel and the future of space travel. And it kind of like watch it. Like I am a hardcore supporter of space travel, and like I would like I'm super obsessed with that kind of thing, and I would love for us to go to Mars, and I would love for us to expand our space exploration past Earth, and really like one of my great one of my great regrets in life is that I was born before we colonized the stars and everything. Like I wish that we lived in like a spacefaring thing. That's why like the Mass Effect franchise, the Expanse series, and science fiction in general, like that's why I gravitate toward these things, is because I just love that idea of humanity breaking from the shackles of just the planet Earth and really expanding upon placing us across the solar system and the galaxy and everything. Like space exploration is just fascinating to me. So anyway, the documentary focuses on why we need to go to Mars and what's needed to go to Mars, and how we're not at a pace where we will go to Mars.
Right.
So, I mean, from me watching this felt like preaching to the choir. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I know, guys. I know, Bill. Let's get there. But the way that they package together the information, it's really remarkable. I really I appreciate the way that they package together the information, because they basically start out by talking about our history with space exploration, how NASA was founded, the work of Werner von Braun, and how we took him from the Nazis and put him to work, and just basically the history of space exploration and the space program, and how like the Cold War really fueled that and everything, and how it kind of fizzled out after that, how the shuttle program wasn't ideal for launching anything past what the shuttle program worked on, and what's needed to really put us into place with onto a pace to get to Mars, to colonize Mars, and really put us to a place. And it's really inspirational and really incredible to see them put this together. And it's also very not disappointing, but dismaying to see just how far away we are from that. Like, the kind of thesis statement is that the Mars generation is these kids at space camp, but it's like we're not the Mars generation, guys, because we're not funding this shit. We're, the next few generations, they're the Mars generation.
Right.
But by the time this documentary gets to SpaceX and the work of Elon Musk, and talking about like the reusable rockets that he developed and everything, it's like they put it into such a brilliant context for why the work that he's doing is, in the work that SpaceX and the work of space people today, why it's so important. It's really beautiful the way that they package together that information.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's like they say that, like, Elon Musk isn't Tony Stark. He's gonna fail. Like he's failing. He fails. Like his work fails and everything. It's the same as the shuttle program and NASA. They failed and tested and everything. It's
trial and error.
Yeah,
part of science.
It's science. Yeah. My one big complaint, like I said, I mean, it's preaching to the choir. I'm so on board with everything that they said, and I got excited at the parts that I was supposed to get excited at. I got pissed off at the parts that pissed me off, and that talks about how the space program isn't what it used to be because it doesn't have that Cold War propulsion to it. Like, one of the stats is that back during the shuttle era, between like 1965 and 1966 specifically, NASA's budget was 4% of the national budget, or the federal budget, or whatever that was given to them. That's when it was developed to go to the moon and everything.
Right.
4% of the budget. Right now, NASA has 0.4%.
Right.
And it's like, it's just, anyway.
Yeah.
My other, like, kind of a big complaint about the documentary for me, was I didn't know anything about the documentary going into it. I just knew it was about kids at space camp. Didn't really show that much of them there. I mean, you get talking heads, you get them kind of giving their, like, 14 to 18-year-old kids giving their perspective on the history of space flight and on the history and future of space travel and everything. I kind of wish it would have been, they would have included some like more stuff of them at space camp, them doing their thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just kind of, it's nitpicking at best, because the actual content of the documentary was pretty interesting, and I recommend checking it out because it's really important, guys.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna die here. Like humanity needs to move. Like,
right.
Come on, like the planet's gonna evict us eventually.
Yeah.
We don't have squatters' rights. So anyway,
there was a cool episode of The West Wing where a NASA employee basically comes to Josh Lyman to convince him to fund their project for Mars.
Oh, and
the way she persuades him is really cool, because she basically says, like, if you give us 4 years and $2.5 billion, we can get to Mars and back.
That's so awesome.
And then he like in the movie or in the show, they talk often about budget stuff, and like they throw around like $10 billion and $30 billion here and there. And Josh Lyman was like shocked by how low the number was.
Yeah.
Like $2.5 billion over 4 years is like nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So I remember loving that episode, because I also like space exploration and everything. So that documentary sounds right up my alley.
Nice. I recommend checking it out. There was one part where one of the kids was like, when they talked about that stat of everything, they're like, they give this very small amount to NASA, and then the DoD has like so many other things. And he's like, that's appalling to me. And I'm like, yeah, that sucks. That's really appalling. But it's like, I mean, DoD is kind of an important part too.
Right.
But yeah, so it's called The Mars Generation. It's on Netflix. It was released on May 5th. Check that out on the Netflix. And Tiny, I think that's going to wrap us up.
Yep.
Do you have any suggestions on what we should do for next week?
Oh boy. I don't know.
There is because I looked on IMDb, the next, like, kind of the only major movie that's releasing this weekend is I'm hesitant to say this because I'm kind of nervous that you're going to be like, oh yeah, let's review that. King Arthur.
Oh, I'm not. Okay. That movie's just so not on my radar at all.
Okay, good. You actually brought it up at the summer movie preview.
Yeah,
like a couple years ago before it got delayed.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it was Guy Ritchie, and I was I like Guy Ritchie, but Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So there is, let's see, there's a documentary on Netflix that we could review if people aren't too sick of us doing like Netflix reviews and stuff. It's called, I sent you the preview like a long time ago, but it's called Casting John Bonet.
Yeah, I actually watched it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh crap! Would it be like worthy of reviewing?
I wasn't into it really.
Okay, well, that's going in the pooper.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you should definitely watch it, but it was kind of lost on me after a while.
And I just saw that's only an hour and 20 minutes too.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything?
I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're going to be reviewing next week or what we're going to be talking about next week, but you can, be excited to check us out next time. Let's see. And, anything else we need to go over, Tiny?
I don't think so. All
right. Well, in that case, guys, if you like what you heard and you want to help support the podcast, easiest way to do that would be to donate to, If you like what you heard and you want to help support the podcast, please go over to iTunes, leave a rating and a review. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer to make recurring monthly donations. Or if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to the donate link in the show notes of this episode and click the donate button on obsessiveviewer.com. Any and all donations made will help pay the fees to keep the podcast running so we can continue to release these podcast episodes to you. Of course, free of charge for everyone. Not that we'd ever charge for them. But anyway, we'll see you guys next week and for a mystery episode that we have no idea what we're going to talk about. Having said all that, guys, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at ovpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast app. The Obsessive Viewer's theme song is An Eclipse of Events and is provided by Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. You can find that and more great music from them on iTunes and like their Facebook page at facebook.com/loudlikemusic. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can email the hosts individually at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at ObsessiveViewer.com, or send an email to the podcast in general at podcast@ObsessiveViewer.com. Check out the Obsessive Viewer blog at ObsessiveViewer.com, where we post movie and TV reviews and the occasional editorial about the business of entertainment. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer and follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer, at ObsessiveTiny, and at I Am Mike White. If you want more obsessive content in your life, check out our sister site, ObsessiveBookNerd.com, for book reviews, author spotlights, and a general celebration of reading. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. Again, thank you so much for listening. We love you. Be excellent to each other.